Welcome to the Vincent Van Gogh Painting Workshop. Today we're going to be walking you through how to do a reproduction of a Vincent Van Gogh painting in the painting style. Here is, for example, the original print of one of his most famous paintings, the Sunflower, and behind me we have two reproductions paintings I did in the Vincent Van Gogh style, post-impressionist impasto style, following the painting, not an exact reproduction bit by bit. That's what we're going to try next. We're going to do a copy, a reproduction of one of his many self-portraits. He did 22 self-portraits, Vincent Van Gogh did, and this is one here that Vincent Van Gogh did to give to his friend, Paul Gauguin, late in his career. I'll be talking about it, but this is the one we're going to do. So go get yourself a nice canvas to paint on, and some paint brushes, and a palette, and let me tell you exactly which paints you're going to use. These are the established paints, certified as good. It's got the imprimatur by Monet and Pissarro. Two big brains of the Impressionist movement. They were six. It was the rainbow of the Impressionists. The six colors in the Impressionist rainbow. White lead. Yeah, it had lead in it. It was poisonous. Yeah, cobalt yellow. It had chrome yellow. It had chrome in it. The cobalt is cobalt blue. Cobalt blue, we'd also call it ultramarine. Veronese green. Veronese green is that. Maybe we call it forest green. And Madder Lake. Madder Lake. It was a really good dark red. Too bad it faded to white. Also was vermilion. Vermilion. It was a bright red. Also scarlet, perhaps we call it. So yeah, two types of red, and so on. This is the six colors in the Impressionist palette. Then we'll mix them around or whatever, but we'll start with these. Now, we selected this as the subject for our reproduction today. Now, how are we going to go about it? We're going to go about it like Van Gogh did. Let me show you. You need a special device. Here's what I wanted to show you. When Vincent Van Gogh was in Arles, he sent to his brother Theo in Paris to have him sent to him an apparatus that was used by painters at the time for getting good perspective in architectural paintings. Let me show you how it works. You see, what you do is you would hang it up the right way, and you would look through it at your object, and in the specific case that Van Gogh was working on, it was a bridge, and he wanted to get all the pulleys right. So he would look through it, and then on his canvas he had a grid drawn out of the proportions that he was looking through. So he used this device, and that enabled him to come up with this, his beautiful, highly realistic painting, The Bridge at l'Anglaise in Arles. And this is a watercolor. He did several oil paintings first, figured out where the colors have to go, then did the watercolor. Watercolor, you can't go back over it. You have to know exactly what the colors are going to be. Now, what's important here is the drawbridge. Van Gogh got all the pulleys and rope work and everything done exactly right, and that was by using the perspective device. He could see exactly what was in that square of the painting, what it looked like, and he could work on the detail there. See, there are two kinds of impressionists. There is the romantic impressionists, like Monet, and the realist impressionists, like Vincent Van Gogh, when to paint things how they really were. So again, like the sunflower paintings, sunflowers at the regible, the sunflowers that were blooming, sunflowers that were dying, sunflowers in full bloom. Monet would just have the ones in full bloom, and people would say, "Oh, you know, the garden doesn't look like that." And Monet said, "Oh yeah, I planted the garden to make it look like that." Shut them up, I bet. So this bridge here was drawn using that grid technique. He was seeing what it was, transferring that onto the canvas. We're going to do the same thing in making our reproduction of the Vincent Van Gogh self-portrait. As to the dirigibles. They're headed to the World's Fair, 1886. Several years. They had 4 of them. So we're going to be using the same grid technique that Vincent Van Gogh used to paint this. It's not a new revolution, nothing new about it. The Egyptians did it to make those gigantic carvings out of the mountains. They'd make a little drawing with the grids and say, okay, grid up that mountain and tear it away. So this is the way we're going to be proceeding next. So we're going to have to take the one we're copying, draw a grid on it, and we're going to take our canvas and draw a grid in the same proportions. Okay? Then we'll be able to make the reproduction. We did the same thing to our copy of the original Vincent Van Gogh. Drew the little grid lines over it. And now comes one of the more time-consuming parts as we correspond each part of the original with the canvas for the reproduction. Okay. Now this is going to take a little while. Alright, let's get this grid done. It's actually going to take less time than you may think, because all we're trying to do is get the basic lines and the proportions within each section of the grid. Yes, that was before he cut his ear off. He made this self-portrait. The lips are right there. Now we chose this for a reason. The hair goes down in there. All right.
He's a little lower on the air. Okay, get in there. Now we'll move on over. And here we just drop on off. Quote, I see he's got an overcoat and a vest underneath. Some kind of a shirt. One button right here in the middle. And let's go down to the corners here. This goes under here. And a little bit more of this. Let's see, we go over and goes down to the corner there. Okay. So this just tells you where everything is. We'll now go up from the base up. Now I'm using a fairly dark pencil to do this. If it was a watercolor, you would use chalk. You would use a yellow chalk so that it wouldn't show. If it was watercolor, you couldn't erase this or it'd smudge. But this is an oil painting. We're using acrylic, and acrylics are just as good. You can use oil or acrylic, but you can't use the two together. You can put oil on top of acrylic, but you can't put acrylic on top of oil. You're probably using acrylic, so do it that way. Now we're going to start putting in our base paints here. Base paint all in the back, base paint here in the foreground, and the face. And here we go again. We took it outside and let it dry in the sun for a good couple of hours. And it's acrylic, so it's nice and dry right now. Van Gogh used the oil paints, and they would really take a day to dry between this lit coat and when you're ready to paint on it for the next layer. Van Gogh, in his most productive period, did finished two paintings a week. He was probably working on more than that. Painters usually have several going because there's a stopping period every now and then. But even with acrylics, it's hard to keep up with Van Gogh. It's 2-3 finished paintings a week is quite a feat. But we're going to go on to we're going to continue on with the background here. You see, the original is more of an ultramarine green, not an ultramarine blue. So this is a lighter ultramarine blue. We're going to now on top of that, this is what our final color is going to be. It's going to be the ultramarine green. And we mixed up a little here with the cadmium, with the chrome yellow. No, anyway, a little bit of the yellow and the whatever blue we're doing, and we're using a number 10 brush, which is you see fairly large, but that's what we need for the job, and we're going to do it in this crosshatch matter like this. And don't worry about an even coat. We're gonna let some of that under. It's now the undercoat. Yeah, you see, we're gonna let some of that bleed through, and we're gonna go over this again. So, working rapidly. Just not really stroking that much. Not leaving. Just touching the paint, leave it, touch it, paint it, leave it, touch it, paint it, leave it, leave it, leave it. A little more paint, load up. Take a little more care later on the outline here. Now this here is way too big, isn't it? That's the ear he cut off. It looks like his right ear, but he always does self-portraits in a mirror. So it's a reverse image. He does another, that's about right. That's his cheekbone, isn't it? He does another self-portrait right after he cut his ear off, wearing the hat, and he's got the bandage on. And it's that ear, and that's the last where he does this side of the face. All the other ones, he's facing the other way, using the mirror again, and it's not the ear he cut off. Never made a painting with that horrible injury. I don't think Van Gogh thought the coat was very important. I painted like Monet, the coat would have been really, really important. Not that indications of a person's class was missing in Van Gogh's artwork now. It was there, but nothing like nothing like the religious imagery. Just keep working. It's going to come together. I'll explain to you what's going on here. This is a self-portrait that Van Gogh was making for his on and off friend, Paul Gauguin. And this is meant to convey the spirit of the Basho, which were Japanese monks. And there was this bizarre fad among the artists in Paris, of the Impressionists, and they had a total misconception of what it was like. They thought there were monks living in these communes, and they just made art all day, and they lived very simply, ascetically, and it was something that Van Gogh thought sounded really cool. he thought that's just wonderful. Let's establish a monastery like that. That kind of a monk. It was called the Basho. And they had this really, they shaved their heads, and had, as part of their ascetic, their commitment to the ascetic non-material lifestyle in the monastery. And to Van Gogh, that sounded really good. And he said to Van Gogh, "Let's go do that. Let's go have our own little Japan down there in southern France." Look at it closely. There are little specks of green everywhere, and that's the Impressionist technique of using the opposite. If there's going to be if there's going to be orange, where's the chart? Where's my flow chart? Well, if there's red, there has to be green. You see, it just has to be there to balance out the colors. Here's what's going on. While we're letting this dry, I'll be giving you an exercise in why they deliberately do that. I put that green there. If you just focus on the green, it's just too much. But I'm going to go in there, but a lot of the green is just going to stay, and that's deliberate to get the effect of the opposite color simultaneously being perceived with the primary, the primary object's color. Here's a simple test you can do. You can take something orange. You see, it's not just a choice. They're not just choosing that. They're saying there's a real reason in the physiological act of perception, and you can see it right now. You can see the blue in the act of perception of orange. It's in the aura of the after image. What you do is you stare at it and 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 stare at it. That's enough. Now close your eyes and you'll see a blue aura around the after image. You see that? It actually is blue around the after image. It was, and they said, yeah, they didn't know neurophysiologists have established that it's different parts of the brain that are being established. They just said, well, we can we can capture that impression, that unconscious impression, yeah, by combining the specks in the painting here. So I'm going to let this dry again for a little bit, and then we'll go back and do another layer.
It's a beautiful morning here, nice and sunny. Our painting is completely dry and ready for the final work. We've got all the basics here in the painting. We just need to do the finishing works here on the background here. I'm not going to do anything more here. The detail work will be on the face. That's where the eye is supposed to be drawn. And what you'll need is all the 6 colors of the Impressionist palette. Plus I've added some more modern colors here to help with the mix. And Van Gogh would have used them because the paintings he used, the oil paints he used, faded. And unfortunately, all of his paintings, none of them look like they did when Van Gogh painted them. Even this one. We're not going to paint it as faded as it looks today, but we're going to leave out some of the mistakes. Here's a mistake. You see this row of specks along there? Yeah, that's because it was rolled up before it was completely dry, and it broke off as being unrolled. You see that on canvases that are unrolled. So we're not going to do that. It's not a forgery, it's a reproduction. So get your 6 Impressionist paints, plus a few other colors there to make it easier. I don't want to spend a lot of time mixing. But here is a difference. Remember, we started off with the number 10 brush, putting in large amounts of background all at once. We went from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 to 6 and so on, all the way down to 1, because in the Impressionist impasto style, we're just dabbing and stroking it on, small little dab with a flat brush, flat end brush. And when you're going to do the detail work, you're actually going from more like from painting to drawing. And you'll see there's outline work here, outline work here. This is something that was influenced by the Japanese and was part of the Impressionist technique. The technique was called cloisonné, having this outline and then filling it in. Toulouse-Lautrec used it. Degas used it. Van Gogh, at this point, late in his career, he'd moved beyond that. He'd achieved the effect he had, the luminescent effect, by the combination of complementary colors, and we'll do that in the final step. Talk about that in a moment. But right now, what you need is your basic pens here and plenty of color. I'm going to take off my coat and let's get to work.
So as I said, now we're going to start moving up here onto the face. We'll touch up more stuff. We'll touch up more stuff later. Now we need to carefully look back and forth. Make sure we got our lines right. And instead of using the flat-ended brushes, now we're going to start using watercolor brushes, which are round, and we're actually doing strokes more like we're drawing. Little, very, very deliberate little bit of cheekbone here. Not much. I'm going to smaller and smaller brushes each time. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying it's not a little bit different outline is what we're going for here. This is a #1 small watercolor brush. Alright, I'm going to need more brown. That's about where it ends. That's about right. We'll move down here. Darker brown that I'm adding. You see the texture? The beard there, we'll try and get that in. Exaggerate it if we have to, like we just did. Alright, a little more texture over here. Hummingbird. And the sparrows in the background. Make a mistake, just keep moving and clean it up later. Alright. Here is not going to be easy at all. Ears are so hard to paint. Okay. Done. That's about right. Alright, what do you think? Okay. Wrong brush. It's a dirty brush. Let's get the clean brush. Itty bitty clean brush. Okay, the eyes these are still way too white. So yeah, we're getting there. Yes, now we need some good old-fashioned black here, which I don't.
Alright, don't fuck it up. Let's not screw it up, eh? Let's do the eye on the left. We're almost done, aren't we? And finally, that'll be enough for that. Okay, we're going to stop right here. We might come back and add some tinges of the complementary colors in the shadows. But right now, here's what we've got. You see that? I hope it's coming through well. So pretty much that's it. I'm going to let this part dry, maybe give it some final touch-ups, and I don't know, see what it looks like in a frame. I'll be right back. I hope you've been following along. I did a few final touches and then I framed it up. They always say it looks better when it has a frame on it. What do you think? This is our reproduction of Vincent Van Gogh's self-portrait dedicated to Paul Gauguin, painted in Arles, southern France, September 1888. The original you can see in the Fogg Art Museum, located in Cambridge, Massachusetts today. Can't make the trip? You can paint your own. Well, it's a very fun and a very good learning experience to reproduce a master like Vincent Van Gogh. Hope you enjoyed the workshop and enjoy the 2021 Dickens Festival online. Hope to see you in person next year.